Welcome to episode 2 of the Highlighted All Sports Culture podcast. I got my boy Kurt. Sam's joining us for this episode. We're going to break down the entire first round, maybe talk about some prospects still left over for the second round. But sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode and this breakdown of the first round. It's going to get juicy. So let's get into it. With the first pick, obviously, Bengals went Burrow. We don't really need to talk much about this. Obviously, great prospect with one of the best college years we've ever seen. Went first overall. It was pretty predictable. Does anyone have anything crazy to say about this pick? Or it was pretty – obviously, we knew it was coming.
Yeah, it's a great pick for Cincy, who obviously is in need of a quarterback, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to say. I mean, they wasted the whole clock. That was the only part that annoyed me about it.
I agree. You're taking a guy for 2 months. You got to sit there for 10 minutes? Come
Apparently
on.
they told him yesterday, too, and sent his family jerseys. And
I saw that.
Come on, guys.
You know what I was thinking? I'm like, maybe they're sitting there with the first pick, and they're calling the Dolphins, right? And they're like, okay, if you guys give us 5 first-round picks, we'll give you Burrow.
Right.
They're just like absolute, like, absurd trades that they're just throwing out. But other than that, I don't know why they're taking so long. But regardless, let's move on to number 2, Chase Young. Obviously, the perfect combine scorer, like or prospect scorer, I should say, whatever that is. Like one of the only 5 prospects to get it. He's obviously incredible out of Ohio State. Goes to the Redskins. I mean, their D line is serious. As much as the people want to joke about, or not really joke about, it's serious. The Redskins are somewhat dysfunctional, not a very good roster, but that D line is no joke. It's top of the line in the league. So, what do you guys think?
I mean,
yes.
Oh, go ahead, Kurt. Sorry.
Yeah, so the biggest thing is I feel like with me, I kind of get more of like an insider opinion because I'm a Redskins fan. But looking at that front seven, looking at the front seven, though, we do have Montez Sweat, and we're getting Chase Young, and we have some quality defensive lineman players with like Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Matt Ioannidis. So I think that the Redskins, at least with the front seven, is going to cause a lot of damage. It's just I don't know how that secondary is going to hold up, especially against a team like Dallas, who just got CeeDee Lamb at pick 17.
So the Chase Young pick is very obvious, and they should not have traded out of it in any scenario unless they got a king's ransom offer. But the thing is, I want to know what's going to happen with Trent Williams, because Cleveland managed to get Jedrick Wills at 10, who's my number 1 tackle, and I don't know who's going to trade for him now.
Yeah, I mean, I somewhat agree, Sam, but at the same time, it's like an elite left tackle. There's a few teams that already have that, but there's probably 10 or 15 teams that would line up to take Trent Williams.
I think
Does his value fall a little bit? Yeah, but
yes.
I still think he's definitely open.
Right, and I was going to say with Trent, I think that finding a partner is not the issue. It's just with the Redskins, it's kind of what you're getting in return for him. So,
yeah,
He'll probably end up just being a day 2 pick.
Yeah, I agree. So moving on to number 3, the Lions stayed put. They get Jeff Okudah at Ohio State. Obviously, he's a pretty good prospect. He looks like a beast, but they stayed put. It was interesting because, the QB needy teams, the Chargers and the Dolphins, maybe some other teams trying to trade up for maybe Isaiah Simmons, but the Lions stayed put. So they get Okudah. I mean, I like that. Obviously, trading Darius Slay is something that they needed to get a defensive back, but I would have loved for them to trade this pick. What do you guys think?
So how I see it is Okudah is the guy they should have gone with no matter what. They needed a corner, and they run the same mindset of New England where you build from the secondary up. And so Okudah is obviously the pick, but you could have traded down and obviously had Miami or, Los Angeles move up to get one of those quarterbacks, but you're also risking the Giants trading back and someone like Jacksonville or Carolina moving up to get Okudah over you, which I think that's probably why they decided to stay put. And there are rumors that they might have gone Derek Brown if they moved down, which I think would have been a huge mistake, but I don't know. Jeff Okudah is the easy pick in my eyes. It's just they could have obviously gotten some draft capital, but I see why they stayed put.
Yeah, for me, it's kind of the same thing. Don't really have much to say other than it was kind of Jeff Okudah was always going to go with Detroit unless a trade happened where it involves Miami or LA. So it's a good pick, and obviously Jeff Okudah had a great year at Ohio State, so it's a good pick for me for Bob Quinn and the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, that's fair. I like the pick. I agree with everything that was said. So number 4, I'm a Giants fan. I got a little bit of a rant here. We select Andrew Thomas, and let me say, this was like one of the first drafts where I wasn't spoiled. Obviously, everyone knows like Twitter always has it first. You know, it's insider guys like always tweet it out about like 30 to a minute before, 30 seconds to a minute before that the pick's actually made by Goodell. So this year I was like, all right, I'm not going to look at my phone. You know, All Sports Culture podcast or a group chat, we got someone spoiling like 30 minutes before the pick. They're writing in all caps like, no way, Andrew Thomas to the Giants. So I'm obviously not listening to that. I close my phone. I'm watching the TV. This is the one year I want to see Isaiah Simmons because, I mean, let's be real. Andrew Thomas realistically might be the smarter pick, might be the better pick for the organization, but I mean, I want Isaiah Simmons just because he's more exciting. Obviously, we have tons of holes on our defense. Linebacker, we spent a lot of money on, but realistically, like, I mean, slot corner, he could play safety, he can play outside linebacker. I want all of that from Simmons, but obviously we took Thomas. Do I think he's the best left tackle? I mean, it's hard to say because there's so many of them. I mean, I would have been okay with either one of them, which is why I said that if the Giants were set on taking a left tackle, they should have traded down to maybe 7 or 8. You know, maybe someone wanted to jump for quarterback, either a quarterback or maybe for Simmons. So if we knew we weren't going to take Simmons, I think you can trade back, even if you don't get Thomas, which maybe the Giants were obsessed with Thomas, which is fair. Then I guess if you're obsessed and he's your guy, you got to pick him. But I don't know. I would have been okay with Wirfs. I would have had Wills. I think is better than Thomas to me. I like Wills better as a prospect. So I would have liked to trade down a little bit. You get Wills, maybe pick up a 3rd-round pick in the process. It just seems like a little bit of a reach, which just seems like what the Giants have been doing under Gettleman. But at the same time, you need to protect Daniel Jones. So I understand where it's coming from. Not sexy, but I get it. What do you guys think?
Well, I think this is one of the first times where Gettleman has understood positional value better than he has in recent years because he drafted Saquon Barkley second.
You mean a running back at 2nd overall?
Oh yeah.
Positional value.
I don't personally think it is. To
the quads though, the quads.
Oh, his quads are big. I'll give you that. But that's why they call him Saquads, bro. But you see, Andrew Thomas, he was my tackle too. I think the pick is good. I think Wills is better, but you obviously could have moved down. You still would have gotten one of those tackles that you were looking at. And honestly, I think Thomas would have been there. But you do need to protect Daniel Jones. And the pick makes sense to me. I just think you're right with your little mini rant right there.
For me, I'm a big fan of Andrew Thomas, and it was around, I think, the November area where a lot of people had Andrew Thomas as the first offensive tackle coming off the board around the 5 or 6 range. So I don't think that now looking at it, Andrew Thomas at 4 is not the worst pick per se. Obviously you wanted Isaiah Simmons because of just his ability to play kind of anywhere on the defensive side of the ball. But Andrew Thomas, from positional need, you got to lock up on protecting Daniel Jones. And I think that I kind of agree for the most part with all of you, but maybe Simmons was the pick, but I think that with Andrew Thomas at 4, you can't really be too mad. The only concern is maybe you could have got him later if you could have traded back, but the thing is, so many things can happen if you trade back, and if you believe that Andrew Thomas is the guy, then you got to go with him at 4.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just, in the end, like I said, not a sexy pick, but I think it will be good for the franchise in the long run. Moving on to number 5, Tua Tagovailoa. Just learned how to say that last name about 2 hours ago, so I'm pretty excited. I might say it like 3 or 4 times. But, yeah, obviously the Dolphins pick up Tua. Smokescreen, I think that's pretty much is what we have from this pick. What we understand is that it was all a smokescreen saying his physicals or his medicals and all that stuff. They were scared. Obviously, I think they wanted Tua since probably 7 months ago, and they got him, so they're pretty happy. Do you guys have anything crazy to say about this?
I'm happy with the Tua pick because I think it was the correct decision. I'm glad they went with him over Justin Herbert, but I think the rest of their draft was not a good idea with them picking Tua. And I'll get to those picks later, and I'm sure we'll all talk over them, but
that's fair.
Tua's the pick. It's a good pick, but I just think they did a not so stellar job. at following up with that selection, if you guys get what I'm saying here.
Right. Yeah. And for me, I completely agree. I'm not the biggest Tua fan, but the fact is he was the right pick at 5, regardless of what I think or not. And especially, later in the draft, like Sam just touched on, I was not a fan at all of Miami, and I hope to get in a little bit of a rant there. But with Miami at 5, taking Tua, obviously with the concerns of his injury history and the hip, ran the question of if he was going to drop. But in my opinion, I thought Tua to Miami was always going to happen. So I don't really have much to say, but hopefully it works out for Miami.
Yeah. So moving on to number 6, obviously the third QB is off the board, Justin Herbert. There's a lot of debate between, are they going to go Herbert? Are they going to go Tua? Tua goes to Miami. Herbert's going to LA. He's going to the Chargers. I've been a Herbert guy. I was a Herbert guy. I wanted the Giants to take Herbert last year. Obviously, Herbert went back to Oregon and played another year at school. So that didn't happen. But I think he's got a lot of potential. He's obviously massive. What is he, 6'5"? He's got the arm strength. He's pretty accurate for the most part. But I think he is somewhat of a project. I don't know. A lot of people are saying, he can come in and play right away. I think he's going to sit under Tyrod for almost the entire year because I think Tyrod's a decent player with the Chargers. So I think Herbert's going to gain a lot off sitting 1 year. I think Tua will sit a year, honestly, under Fitzpatrick. So, but yeah, Kurt, if you want to go first, I know you have a lot to say about the Chargers.
Yeah, so with the Chargers, I'm actually a big fan of Herbert, and I know a lot of people aren't, and I think you aren't either, Sam, so you can express that opinion after I'm done. But with Herbert, I loved him, especially in his early stages at Oregon. Obviously, he was expected to go to the NFL after his junior year, and a lot of people thought that would happen. Like you said, Sully, hopefully going to the Giants, but he stayed the next year at Oregon, and that's where it kind of was a little bit weird with Justin Herbert. Made a lot of the mistakes he made in his early years at college. But I think that if you look at his potential, like you said, he's a big guy, he's tall, he's athletic. And I think that with Justin Herbert, it's one of those situations where you cannot play him early in the year. He's just not ready to be an NFL quarterback right now. But I think Tyrod Taylor is a good quarterback. His career record is 22-20, which a lot of people don't realize. And I think that Justin Herbert getting exposure under him and hopefully allowing this Chargers team to get some sort of an O-line because that defense is still pretty good. So I think that with the Chargers, if Tyrod starts and plays a lot, then I think that Justin Herbert's going to work out well in LA. Then I'll talk about how I love the Kenneth Murray pick later in the draft.
Kurt, you and me are so vastly different in our opinions on the Chargers draft. And I'm going to drop a really hot take real quick. I know the first round just happened, and we haven't even gone through the rest of the draft. How I look at the Chargers right now, they scream 2018 Chicago Bears to me, where you have this unbelievable defense. You have all this talent. You have an extremely powerful pass rush, an elite secondary, and then you look at their offense, and you have this quarterback who, in his college career, he showed basically little development. I didn't see that much growth from Herbert throughout his college career at Oregon, and I just think he's going to hold this team back immensely. And whether he starts year 1 so they can capitalize off his rookie contract, whatever, I don't see what others see in Herbert. I think he's worth a second-round pick, but in the top 10, I don't know, man. I am very different.
Sam, I got a question for you.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
How does it feel to be completely wrong?
I'll admit if I'm wrong.
Is very good. Watch, I guarantee it. These are one of those things. I'm a guy who watches someone. Obviously I do my research and whatnot, but I watch people and I form my opinions, and then they kind of stick with me, which is kind of bad. I agree. Herbert hasn't had a ton of development in college, but watched a couple games from probably 2 years ago. Loved what I saw. That's kind of what I remember him as. Obviously, if you said he hasn't shown much development. I agree, he hasn't shown much development. So that's obviously not a great thing. But I think playing in the NFL, obviously he's not actually going to be playing. I think he's going to be sitting under Tyrod. That should do wonders for his development. If that doesn't, then it's a little bit of a problem. But I think he's got the intangibles to be a good NFL quarterback. I mean, I can totally see where you're coming from, but I also know that you're wrong. So that's all that needs to be said.
Well, okay. So what are they going to do about the left side of the offensive line? They just traded up back into the first round, and they decide to not go for someone like Josh Jones or Ezra Cleveland so they can protect their new young quarterback. And I know the kid is big, he's strong, but like, what do you expect? Are you going to sign someone like Jason Peters or I don't know, guys.
I mean, this is what you do. You pull Justin aside, you go, hey, look, Justin, you're going to have to run for your life out there, right? But you're going to make the right play. Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
I don't agree with the right play. This kid, he can't see the middle of the field. He can't see it.
We'll see about that.
Let's just move on. I'll get even more angry at their 23rd pick, but yeah, let's just go to 7 with Carolina, where they took Derek Brown.
And I mean, I think he's obviously a pretty complete player. I mean, I wouldn't say he's Aaron Donald, but he's big, physical. He's pretty fast. He's quick. He's got nice moves. I think he's probably one of the safest players in the draft, in my opinion. But I also feel like they should have went Simmons, so I also don't like it. I mean, I'm saying he's a very good player, but at the same time, I think Isaiah Simmons is a franchise changer where Derek Brown is – I compared him to Aaron Donald, but he's not Aaron Donald. He might be a franchise changer, but he's a very good piece, in my opinion, where Isaiah Simmons is a franchise changer. But what do you guys think?
I comped Derek Brown to Snacks Harrison, and I think that's going to kind of come true throughout his NFL career. I think for a decade you're going to get an elite run stuffer who can eat up blocks, but you can get someone, like you said, a franchise changer in Isaiah Simmons at 7. I thought they were going to do it because they just lost Luke Kuechly, but I guess for the rebuild, they want to get a defensive lineman. And I know they just lost a ton of their defensive line in free agency, but Simmons, man, what do you think, Kurt?
Straight up, it was an awful pick. I'm not going to lie. So but just look at this. Like you guys were saying, Isaiah Simmons, you just lost Luke Kuechly.
Mm-hmm.
And you're getting – and everyone knows this. Every scout, me, you, everyone knows that Isaiah Simmons is going to be a great player in the NFL. Straight up. And I know it's a different team. I know you don't have Ron Rivera, and I know that it's kind of a little bit of a culture change. You know, Rivera obviously had Luke Kuechly. But in that instance, I just don't understand how you're not going to go with Isaiah Simmons. I'm not bashing Derek Brown at all, and I think that Derek Brown, like you said, is a good run stopper and has a possibility of, you know, becoming a good NFL player. But when you have Isaiah Simmons sitting there without any trade having done, I just don't understand how you're not going to make that pick. So.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I'm surprised Isaiah Simmons didn't really fall, as we'll talk about in the next pick, but it was a little bit of a fall for someone who is considered maybe the most talent in the draft besides Chase Young. So it was interesting. But at number 8, obviously, talking about Isaiah Simmons, mentioned the Devil, selected to Arizona. A lot of people thought, they might take CeeDee Lamb with this pick. I mean, 8 overall is a little early, but Kyler was campaigning for CeeDee, obviously Oklahoma vets, but they take Isaiah. I think this is definitely a way better pick than taking CeeDee Lamb. I mean, let's just combine it or compare. I'm saying DeAndre Hopkins, Kirk, Larry Fitzgerald. I mean, Larry Fitzgerald is old, but he's still there. Mm-hmm. I'm probably missing someone. Am I missing? I feel like Andy Isabella.
Andy Isabella. Yep. Hakeem Butler and
they have a young core, and CeeDee. I mean, CeeDee's a great player, but it just Isaiah Simmons, I feel like, just fills so many needs for a defense that obviously is not very good. So Isaiah Simmons, perfect pick in my opinion. Didn't have to trade up, fell right into their laps, fills a ton of needs for a team that needs a lot of needs. So What do you guys think? Just really quickly about Isaiah.
For me, it's I had a lot of people at least texting me saying I don't understand why Arizona didn't go offensive line here, but with me, I think it's the right pick going Simmons. The narrative of you got to take the best player available applies super well here, and you want to fill that position need, especially with Arizona, I think, allowing the most sacks last year. If anyone wants to correct me, I think I'm right on that one. So I understand if you want to go O-line there, but
Did you say Arizona let up no sacks?
no, let up the most sacks.
Oh,
Okay, I
was like,
what?
wait.
I was gonna say I'm gonna do a little bit of a fact check here.
No, so that's why I was arguing I understand why some people are saying you might want to take an offensive tackle there, maybe take Jedrick Willis, who all of us are high on. But in my opinion, I think that with Isaiah Simmons, you're getting someone who can obviously play any position on the defensive side of the ball. And I think that, like I just said, it fills the take the best player available need. So I think that it was a great pick for Arizona.
Now, trust me when I say I love Isaiah Simmons. I think he's going to be a fantastic player in the NFL. My only concern I had with the team selecting him is the scheme that he would be put into. Now, I hate to bring this up. I know it's a new regime, but the last time the Cardinals took a hybrid linebacker was Hassan Reddick, and that hasn't worked out too well. Now, I think Simmons is a much better prospect than Reddick, but I'm being very optimistic. I think he'll do great in the league. It's just something to throw in there. If you catch my drift.
No, I mean, I totally catch the drift. I mean, well, I don't catch it at all. I think he's amazing. But I understand where you're coming from, like mentioning Reddick. I mean, obviously, he's probably, like 15th overall, somewhere around there. So a little bit higher than, or like 13th, a little higher than Simmons, obviously. Simmons going 8th. But it is an interesting comp. Both hybrid linebackers, Simmons might play a little corner, safety for the probably safety around the line of scrimmage. It's probably what he's going to fill in the NFL defense system. But yeah, I think it's totally fair to say, especially since there isn't a ton of talent around him with the Cardinals. I mean, he's got Peterson, he's got Chandler Jones, but there's not a ton of talent in the Cardinals, so it might be hard for him if he's trying to cover too many positions or whatnot. They're trying to ask him to do too much, especially as a rookie. But I do think that he's just such a superior athlete that he will prevail in the end. But yeah. Oh, by the way, I just got a wonderful gift from Zoom. They just said they removed the 40-minute limit, so we're good to go. Let's just run it up.
Cool.
Let's go, boys. Run it up.
Let's just take it.
All right, so let's move on. Number 9, the Jaguars select C.J. Henderson out of Florida. I think it's a great pick. Personally, my favorite cornerback out of the draft. Probably most people's, I would say. It seems like most of the other corners that I'm remembering, it seems like there weren't really many corners picked high. Am I correct in that? Like it was Henderson, and then everyone was kind of like
it was
like
Henderson,
18th or 19th.
Terrell was at like 16, and then Arnett went like 19. Yeah, it was 19th, it was 9, and then like the late teens.
Yeah, so I feel like I think the Cardinals got a good pick, obviously, and Henderson, obviously moving on from both Boye and Ramsey, that's a scary duo to remove. Obviously, Boye hasn't been the same since 2 or 3 years ago, but Ramsey's still an elite corner. Moving on from them is tough, so Henderson is a pick they had to make, investing in the future and now. I love it from the Jaguars. I think it's a great pick. What do you guys think?
Okay, so I know Kurt just put up on our Instagram page a film breakdown of CJ Henderson, and you guys were talking about how much you guys loved him. CJ was my corner 3. I am not as high on him as most people are. Most of them universally have him as corner 2, and obviously the NFL thought the same way. I don't know. His 2019 wasn't very spectacular. If you ask him to do anything in the run, you are getting nothing out of him, and his tackling needs work. So I understand the appeal. I totally get it. It's just I have my skepticisms.
Yeah, so I'm going to keep this kind of short. So was CJ a little bit of a reach, maybe at 9 for Jacksonville? You could argue so, even though the rumors were coming out that CJ was a top 10 pick. I don't think he's the best corner. I would obviously go with Okudah. I'm a big fan of Okudah, but with Henderson, I did the film breakdown on him, so obviously go check that out on the Instagram. Has to work on the tackling for sure, but I think that with Jacksonville needing help in the cornerback position, I don't think it's a awful pick. I'm not going to like bash them for it, but then again, I'm not going to praise them for the pick. So that's kind of just my quick reaction on that.
Yeah, that's fair. Moving on to number 10, the Browns picked Jedrick Wills out of Alabama. Personally, one of my favorite picks in the draft, just because we know the Cleveland offense is it's star-studded. I mean, you got
stupid.
You got Odell, you got Landry, you got Kareem, you got Shud, you got
Njoku,
why am I forgetting?
Hooper.
Yeah, Njoku out of Miami. I mean, it's kind of, and now you got Wills, and obviously the offensive line is still not great, but if you're adding Wills, an elite prospect, that's obviously going to help a ton on for Baker. But I obviously I was a big Baker guy going into this year, or going into last year, I should say, and he did pretty bad even with the poor coach and a poor offensive line. I do put a decent amount of blame on him. So this year, I do probably have the Cleveland Browns winning 10 games, I would say. Right now, it's just like their defense. They picked up a lot of people in free agency, and obviously that offense has been star-studded. They add the elite offensive tackle prospect, I should say, elite prospect. So I think that the Browns have the capability of winning 10 games this year. If they don't, I think I would say 80% of the blame is going to land on Baker. And if they do have a poor season, Baker's probably on a lifeline at this point. I feel like that's the way it goes at Cleveland. They gave him a year. His rookie year was very good, obviously. A lot of mistakes, but he also broke the rookie touchdown record. Second year, he kind of had huge aspirations. I mean, MVP talk a little bit for Baker, obviously with Odell and Landry. Kind of choked a little bit, like I said, kind of on the coach and the offensive line. But if he doesn't do it this year, I mean, Baker's probably one more year and he's out of Cleveland. That's my opinion. I feel like they have a short leash over there. So what do you guys think?
Right. So a lot of blame, I think, has to go on Freddie Kitchens and what he did as a coach. But now with Kevin Stefanski as head coach, they really have no excuse, especially getting Jedrick Wills in the draft. I was hoping from a Redskins perspective that they would not draft an offensive tackle. Maybe that would help us kind of trade Trent Williams, but it works out for Cleveland that they're getting Jedrick Wills, especially on that rookie deal. It's a good move for them, and they really have no excuse to do poorly next year. So
You're right. They have, or at least the offense has no excuse to be bad. I mean, I think Kevin Stefanski, with the personnel he has at hand this upcoming season, should at least have a top 10 offense in the NFL. I don't think that's that crazy to say. It's just all riding on Baker and him. It's basically it. And I mean, the Wills pick is fantastic. And there was a lot of buzz about them trading down for someone like Ezra Cleveland, which I think was going to be a huge mistake if they did that. But just standing pat and getting Wills is just a huge win in my eyes.
Yeah, definitely a good move for the Browns there. Moving on to number 11, the Jets select, one of the 4 offensive tackles that were projected to be in the top 12 or whatever. Okay, Becton. I don't think much needs to be said about this. The Jets obviously need an offensive line. I think they could have went wide receiver here. A lot of people were talking CeeDee Lamb, which they definitely need to add wide receivers to their corps. What do they got? Perriman, Crowder, Nunwa, who's going to be on IR after week 2 with a neck injury. And then that's pretty much it for the Jets. So they don't have a ton of weapons for Darnold, but you got to protect them to throw to anyone. So I like it. I think it's a pretty good pick at number 11. You guys have anything to say?
I mean, they've just invested so much resources into this offensive line this offseason. And I think they've kind of not failed, but it's been a really underwhelming group that they've gotten back. I think George Fant was a huge overpay, and now they're taking Becton over Wirfs, and I think Becton has a lot more to work on, but he easily could end up as the best tackle out of this class if they coach him right and he refines his technique. But yeah, it's a good pick, and I can see why they made it.
No, I kind of agree. If you're talking like adding a bunch of offensive linemen during the offseason, now this one with the draft, it kind of just seems like the Jets are throwing a bunch of B minuses at the board and hoping they can combine to make an A lineman, which isn't really how the NFL works. You got to like actually get the elite player to get the A lineman. But yeah, I mean, if you shoot a bunch of times, chances are you're going to hit once. So maybe Becton is going to be that elite tackle for them. Kurt, do you have anything crazy to say about Becton?
Nothing really. I kind of agree with you guys for the most part. The biggest thing is we can all agree that that offensive lineman or O-line, at least last year, was atrocious. So adding Becton and doing a little bit of work in free agency is definitely going to help. And, sooner or later, they can't use the excuse of Sam Darnold just gets beat up every single play because, you got to fix that. And hopefully the Jets can turn into a winning team soon. So we'll just see about that.
Yeah, I mean, as a Giants fan, I can say pretty surely that the Jets will suck forever, definitely next year. So that's pretty much my analysis on that. Number 12 overall, the Raiders select Henry Ruggs out of Alabama. The first thing I got to say about this is I bet over 15.5 Ruggs. I think that I got absolutely destroyed on this bet. I think it was a great bet, in my opinion. And I think that the Raiders choked on this. I think the Raiders choked on this pick because, listen, Derek Carr, what does he throw? 6 yards per attempt, maybe even less. Honestly, it's literally me on the field. I'm not going to say that the guy's not decent. He was pretty good before he got that major back injury. But, I'm in MVP talks a little bit. I got a couple MVP votes. But regardless, the last 2 years, Carr has not been throwing it deep, and that's what Ruggs does. I guess it makes sense. You're carrying safeties over the top, making it so, the short routes are a little bit more open, a little less congested in the middle of the field. But I just think I bet over 15.5. I thought Judy and CeeDee would go way before Ruggs, and I really think they should have. I think if you ask all the franchises around these picks, they would have taken Judy and CeeDee over. I think Gruden is just an absolute psychopath, and he's like, I'm just going to get this guy that's so fast because he's Tyreek Hill, and then he forgets that his QB can't throw more than 45 yards. So I think that's pretty much what happened there. But in my opinion, I like the player, not the fit. What do you guys think?
Yeah, so a lot of people are going to agree with you with that one, Sully. With me, it's John Gruden looked at his division, the AFC West, and was like, look, we need to recreate something, obviously, on the Super Bowl winning Chiefs. And I think that looking at what Tyreek Hill did to that offense, he was, loved Henry Ruggs in this draft, obviously, with the fact that he's so explosive, super fast. So, I could argue, like you just said, about the fit, but I think that as a prospect, I'm not mad about it, but I definitely think on my wide receiver board, I would have Judy in the lamb ahead of Ruggs, but I understand why John Gruden and Mike Mayock did that. So,
yeah, I really can't say anything else. I thought Ruggs being the first wide receiver off the board was a very real possibility, kind of like the John Ross effect, where you see a guy running the 4.2s, you're like, man, that guy could really open up some opportunities for our offense. But like you said, Derek Carr throws less than 10 yards downfield most of the time. I really thought Judy was the guy who better fit their offense, but
yeah,
obviously they disagreed, and they fell in love with a certain prospect like they did last year with Cleveland Farrell, and they
did it again later on in this draft.
I don't agree with that.
Okay, we can talk about that.
I don't agree with that, but we'll get to that pick later.
Yeah.
But I guess we can move on now with the trade the Bucks made with the 49ers. So the Bucks traded up with the 49ers to 13 overall in order to select Tristan Wirfs. The Niners traded back down one spot to 14, and Tampa ended up trading, I think it was a 4th round pick for that. Was it something like that?
Yeah, 3rd or 4th, yeah.
But they made sure that they got a tackle, one of those top 4 guys, to protect Tom Brady. And I think this is one of the best case scenarios, because I thought Becton going there was a kind of an iffy idea. I nearly gave them Josh Jones in my mock draft because I thought Jones was a lot more ready at the pro level to like go day one, and he could protect Tom Brady at the NFL level better than Becton. But trading up, yeah, it makes total sense. I'm pretty sure Miami was just completely blowing up San Fran's phone to get up to 13, but I don't think San Francisco wanted to move back because obviously they had their eyes set on Kinlaw. But what do you guys think of the Wirfs pick?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Wirfs probably, I would say, my second favorite lineman in this draft behind Wills. So getting him at 13 is obviously really, really good. I personally don't think that Tom Brady and the Bucs, as much as their offense is stacked, I don't think they're making a Super Bowl run. I just don't think Brady has it in him. But if they were to, I love the pick. Obviously, you've got to protect Brady at this point in his career. You need to give him all the time that he can get so he can make the right reads. But if you give him enough time, I think they do have somewhat of a possibility of winning a lot of games. So I do like the pick.
Yeah, so I had Wirfs going 4 to the Giants. So getting Wirfs at 13 with Tampa is obviously a great move in my opinion. You got to protect Tom Brady. I'm basically just going to agree with with what you guys said. So I think that it's a good move for Tampa. How to move up one pick in order to make sure that they got their guy. But if you like your guy, then obviously trading up one pick should not mean that much of a difference. So I like the move from them.
Yeah, so at number 14, obviously, like Sam just said, the Niners traded back from the 13th pick to select Kinlaw out of South Carolina, defensive tackle. I'm going to be short and sweet here. I don't love it. I think he's a pretty solid player, but is he better than DeForest Buckner, who they essentially traded this exact pick for? I don't really think so. Obviously, you got to usher in some age concerns and contract concerns when you're talking about Buckner versus a first-round pick in 2020. But in my opinion, I just don't think the player talent-wise, both of them wasn't a great pick for the Niners. What do you guys think?
I think it was a fine pick. Not something I'm going to bash. I think the biggest thing is they wanted to get rid of that Buckner contract. And like you said, he's getting up there in age. Kinlaw, I'm not the biggest fan of. I think that the drop-off between him and Derek Brown is a lot bigger than some people think, even though they are obviously play the same position. And some people think that they're very similar. But I think that the drop-off is a lot bigger than some people realize. But it's from a money standpoint, I definitely understand the move, but if you really think about it, like you said, you're basically trading Kinlaw for Buckner, and I just don't think that, that's really a good move per se for John Lynch.
So the part I found really interesting about this is they traded back for a fourth, and then later on in the draft, they ended up trading up again, and they used that fourth, so now they're basically going the rest of the draft without a second, third, or fourth round pick. So they obviously think highly enough of their 2 draft picks that they can still be in contention. And I mean, adding Kinlaw to that defensive line, their defensive line is still going to be top tier of the league. Honestly, could still be the best. And getting Kinlaw in there at like 20% of Buckner's salary, where he could next to Armstead, Ford, and Bosa, still put up somewhat of that production potentially. I get the pick. I think it was kind of a mistake because you're obviously trading Buckner because you think that you have another option that could fill that role. But it's, yeah, like Kurt said, it's a fine pick. I'm not head over heels for it, even though I love Kinlaw. It's just the situation is what kind of throws me off about it.
Yeah, I agree. And you can't really act like they just traded Buckner away yesterday and then they drafted Kinlaw today. Like, obviously, there was months difference. They didn't know exactly what was going to happen, what was going to pan out in the draft. But honestly, it's possible they got a player that's just as good. Like I said, it's possible that obviously is much cheaper for a team that has a bunch of players that need some money. So, especially obviously since they went to the Super Bowl last year and they got a star-studded defensive line and just an overall defense. So, I think it's possible that it is better than most people expect. although I don't love him. But moving on to 15th, I think this is one of the best picks in the draft. The Broncos select Jerry Jeudy at number 15. I wouldn't say it's one of the best picks in the draft, but this one was kind of easy to see out. The Broncos obviously need a second wide receiver next to Cortland Sutton. They have Noah Fant at tight end, but they definitely need another weapon at wide receiver. Jeudy is probably, if you ask most people, he's probably the best prospect. Or actually, I don't know. I shouldn't say that. Maybe you guys totally disagree. We could talk about that in a little bit. But Jeudy seems like he's ready for the NFL. And Drew Lock does seem pretty legit based on his last 4 games. Obviously, that's not a ton. It's not a huge sample size, but he does have a lot of potential. So I think Lock, Sutton, Lindsey, Gordon, Fant, Jeudy. I don't want to spoil anything, but all Sports Culture might have a post on that soon, made by yours truly. But I think it's a young offense. Super Bowl in the next 5 years, not out of the question for them.
Whoa.
What do you guys think?
Okay.
Yeah, so they say there's no such thing as love at first sight, but then you look at Jerry Judy's route running and you fall in love with it. So I think with Jerry Jeudy, he was by far my favorite wide receiver out of this draft. I love CD, and I liked Henry Ruggs, but for me, Jerry Jeudy is by far the best wide receiver. And like you said, was already in love with that Denver Broncos team, such a young core, and I was a big Drew Lock fan, and adding Jerry Jeudy, who can maybe even play the slot with Cortland Sutton outside, works out perfectly for me, and I'm a huge fan of this pick at 15.
Same here. I've been pegging Jeudy to the Broncos for months now. I thought they would love him most out of all the wide receivers, and looks like I was right. I just think he slots perfectly into Pat Shurmur's offense with the timing, and that route running is going to be perfect. So, yeah, it's a no-brainer pick to me. I can see why they went with him over Lamb, and I reflected that in my mock as well. But I just think Lamb falling, we'll get to Lamb, but I love Lamb so much. Yeah. Jeudy, I'd have no words. I have no words for the fall, man.
All right, well, he'll be coming up soon enough. 16th overall, the Falcons select AJ Terrell, whatever you say it, out of Clemson. Personally, I don't really know much about this guy, I'm going to be honest. I know the Falcons definitely needed some defensive back help. Desmond Trufant's obviously not there anymore, even though he wasn't what he was 2 or 3 years ago anymore, but he's obviously not there, so they need some help on defense. I like the Falcons offense. Obviously added Todd Gurley, lost Austin Hooper, but I don't think it's much of an issue for them. I think it was more of a system thing for him. So I like the Falcons offense. I like a bounce back year from them. Matt Ryan's played really well. Like honestly, since for the last 10 years, he's been a very good quarterback. He's never the problem. So adding a defensive back is definitely a need. I just don't know if this was the right guy. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I get it. You need help on the cornerbacks position, but when all up into the draft, all I hear is Atlanta's going to be so aggressive in this draft, and then you don't make a trade up and you take AJ Terrell. I mean, I get it. It's a position need, but for me, AJ Terrell is a second-round talent, and that's not anything against AJ Terrell. I think that he could work out fine, especially with Atlanta. He's going to play right away, but I don't know. I was hoping to see them trade up and maybe get like a CJ Henderson, but I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of the move, to be honest.
Yeah, just to kind of echo what you said, they were just rumored to trade up throughout the entire process, even calling Washington, seeing if they could get up for Chase Young, which is just ridiculous to think about. But they ended up getting stuck at 16, and I'm kind of surprised they just didn't even trade down. Like, the cornerback class is pretty close, around the 20s. Now, I think Fulton would have been the better selection here, but I think they had their eyes set on Kinlaw, and they just didn't know what to do. And maybe Terrell obviously was their third corner at least, but he's got really nice tools. He's a great man cover corner. He's really sticky, but it's an overdraft for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like Kurt was saying, all up until the draft, you just heard about them trading up. Even they were trying to get the second pick, which is insane for Young, Chase Young. But yeah, I would say the Falcons kind of botched this one, a little bit of a choke. But I do want to say, as though when you saw that Zoom call or whatever they were doing, I don't know what the NFL draft was using, but they had the GM, they had the owner, and they had the coach. You see the owner, he was sitting there with his kids. Think about how dope that would be if you were one of his kids. Just sitting at the draft table with the owner of your dad's the owner of the Falcons, and you're about to draft an NFL player at the 16th overall. You're 14 years old. You're sitting there. You love sports. You're just like, this is like, that would just be dope. Am I overthinking this, or is that?
No,
I
it
feel like that
definitely
would be
Not
awesome.
at all. Like every GM had their kids in frame when they made the pick. Like they knew they're on TV. It's just kind of
Yeah,
cool.
which leads me to the fact that when we talk about Vrabel, or when we talk about the Titans, I should say Vrabel, the head coach, not the GM. But we got something to mention about Vrabel, which I'll bring it up when we talk about him.
It looked like
But-
Frozone.
But yeah, there was some weird shit going on in there. I don't know what was happening with that Zoom call. But 17th overall, CeeDee Lamb going to the Cowboys. Honestly, we probably all have a lot to say. I'll keep mine relatively short. But CeeDee Lamb, potentially the most talented wide receiver in this draft. I feel like a lot of people maybe underwrote him just because of the conference he was playing in. But nonetheless, he's extremely talented. You can see that from watching the film. It's crazy that he dropped this far, in my opinion. The third wide receiver drafted is pretty crazy to me. Goes to the Cowboys, which I don't think was a huge need for them. Obviously, they have Gallup and Cooper. Not much help other than that. But obviously, losing Byron Jones, you probably would have thought they would have went defensive back, but maybe they just obviously we see with AJ Terrell going 16th overall, maybe they weren't liking the corners there. They didn't like Fulton maybe. So they were like, we're going to take a wide receiver. We're really going to give Dak all that he can get in his franchise tender year and or his franchise tag year, I should say. And maybe he can earn that $35 million contract. So we'll see. That should be an explosive offense with Zeke, Amari, Gallup, CD, obviously a good offensive line. So it's going to be electric, and which sucks because I'm a Giants fan. So kind of just hoping that Dak is – I mean, Dak's – what has he thrown? 30 touchdowns as his career high? I don't know about Dak.
Right.
I'm just going to say. I don't know.
Yeah. So
All right, what do you guys think?
yeah, with me, I wish they didn't draft him for the fact that I'm a Redskins fan, and obviously, Sully, you're a Giants fan, and it's a division rival. So, with this Cowboys team, I think with them, it's at least on the offensive side of the ball, they really have no excuse this year. Dak Prescott got franchise tagged, trying to get that huge contract extension. But for me, it's like you have a new head coach. You're not stuck with Jason Garrett anymore. It's an incredible offensive line.
I mean, they are stuck with McCarthy, but yeah, it's not Jason Garrett.
But it's
a
one
little
of those
better,
things
maybe.
where it's like if they
Sam can talk about that.
I can talk about McCarthy.
Right, but
Oh,
it's
yeah,
like
go on,
they
Kurt.
don't have if they don't make the playoffs, especially in an awful NFC East, what's the excuse this time? It's you have a new head coach, you have another amazing weapon in CeeDee Lamb. Like I know you lost Travis Frederick, but you still have an incredible offensive line. And I think that if they don't make the playoffs again, it's one of the situations where it's like, what's going on? Because I think by far, at least on paper, Dallas has the best team in the NFC East. So,
yeah, definitely.
Okay, so here's how I look at it. Dallas's offense is going to be ridiculous next year. In order for Mike McCarthy's offense to be at its highest potential, and I can say to this because I had to live through the McCarthy years as a Packers fan, and his offense is at its best when he's 3 wide receivers deep with elite talent. So having Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb, that's just unfair. And whatever you will say about him, I know you guys are NFC East fans, but he is a good quarterback. I hate to break it to you guys, but I think this offense, it was good last year, and he still giving the reins to Kellen Moore to call plays like he did last year, I still think this offense is going to be top tier in the whole NFL. Now let's talk about their defense. Their defense is a shell of what it was. And I think if they're going to fall off, it's because of the defensive side of the ball. But CeeDee Lamb being here, who I had as a top 5 talent in this entire class, it's too good to pass on. And I completely see why Jerry Jones just couldn't resist.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit of a middle finger to the Eagles, who obviously were rumored to really want CeeDee. And honestly, they don't need to be rumored. We know they want CeeDee because the Eagles have absolutely no offensive talent when it comes to the wide receiver. I mean, they have Alshon Jeffrey, but he kind of wants to leave the team immediately. So, I mean, they don't really have anyone. So, I think that they obviously really wanted CeeDee, and the Cowboys were kind of like, okay, this is 2 birds, 1 stone. We get a great player, and we say F you to the Eagles. So we're going to take CeeDee. Number 18 overall, the Dolphins select Austin Jackson. I know our group chat was going kind of bonkers. I mean, we got, the king of templates, Fins. He's obviously a pretty big Fins fan.
He defended it. For sure.
But yeah, I mean, all the Dolphins fans are always going to defend it, but Sam, you could take this away.
I'm going to shit on this pick so hard. So, Austin Jackson. So you take Tua, who is, as we know, a very injury-riddled career throughout his college years. So you're going to take Austin Jackson, who is extremely raw as a prospect. He's very young. He's like 20, I think, and he's a great guy. I'm not taking that away from him. No, I don't know him personally. Apparently, he donated bone marrow to his little sister.
Yeah. Okay. Wait. Hold time out. keep your thoughts, Sam. But I just want to say that almost every pick in this NFL draft had probably the most tragic story I've ever heard in my life. Literally, it'd be like 3rd overall. You'd read the facts. It'd be like height 6'3", weight 240. 3rd fact, mother killed in a car accident. Donated his left limb to his dad. Like, what? Like, why is this so, like, I don't know. I mean, I guess it just, like, makes them stronger and more motivated to make it to the NFL. But it was something else. But, yeah, go on to shitting on Austin Jackson.
Okay, back to Jackson, who I didn't have in my top 100. I think I don't see anything in him. He's got so much to work on, and he's just a mess as a prospect. And I think throwing him instantly in that offensive line, and you're hoping he's your left tackle because he played left tackle at USC. Now I get it. It's not Tua's blind side, but you want to throw him in there and just say, okay, Tua, stay behind this offensive line. And they didn't pick another offensive lineman in the 1st round when someone like Josh Jones or Lucas Niang were still available. But no, they had to go with the massive project, Austin Jackson at 18th overall. 18th. Like, I can't say anything else on that. I think this is a massive mistake of a pick. And I also think their other pick was a big mistake, but we'll get to that when we get there. But the Dolphins just had a good 1st pick, but then to follow up on that 1st pick, they didn't do anything.
I mean, not really much to say. I agree with you. I think the better pick here is Josh Jones. Austin Jackson's one of those players where you just don't really know what you're getting out of him. I think Josh Jones, like I just said, is the better pick here. So I don't agree with it, but that's all I really got to say. Kind of agree with you on with the most part, though. So.
Yeah, I mean, Owen, if you're listening, your team sucks. So that's all I got to say.
You're not wrong.
Moving on to 19th, the Raiders select Damon Arnett. Out of Ohio State. I mean, Ohio State is known as defensive back university. I actually cringe when I hear that every time, just because I'm a Giants fan and we picked Eli Apple and he's horrible at football. So Like when people literally every time they mention Ohio State, they're like defensive back university, and I'm literally just like, do these people just wipe Eli Apple from their memory, or like I'm confused? But regardless, traditionally they do make good defensive backs, so I think it's kind of fair to say. I'm just a little bit salty. But yeah, Arnett. Obviously, we talked about the Raiders when they picked Ruggs. It seems like Gruden and whoever's running the show over there, Mark Davis, the owner. It's kind of just like we like who we like and we don't care what's going on. It just seems like one of those – every pick they make just seems like they could trade down like 8 or 9 picks and get the same player plus another draft pick. But the Raiders, they find their guys and they just do it. I mean, I heard this about Arnett. Honestly, I don't know much about him. I heard he was a wide receiver like 2 years ago. I don't know how true that is, but if you guys know, you could talk more about it.
Not really talking about the wide receiver aspect, but I loved Arnett coming into this draft as an underrated prospect. I didn't think he'd go as high as 19, but I thought that there was a chance he could slimmer to the first round. So Vegas, was it a little bit of a reach? I mean, maybe, but the fact that they still got, I think, a really good player at 19 is, like we've been talking about throughout the whole podcast, if it's someone you really like, even though you can trade down, maybe just go ahead and go and get that guy. But Arnett to Vegas, I think it's a pretty good move. The only thing I would say is it might have been a little bit of a reach.
I don't think this pick was a reach at all. I love
that just shows my opinion.
I love Damon Arnett. I honestly, even though I like Fulton more, I still think the value here was worth it. Now, most people say he was a reach, and I am so proud of myself for the NFL agreeing with me on this. But I think he's a day one starter. You could not fool him twice when he was in coverage at Ohio State. Now, obviously, he had Jeffrey Okudah across from him. But that would make them go towards his way. And he is just aggressive in press coverage. And his man technique is just spectacular, and he needs to work on his tackling. He had a very disappointing junior year, but I think this guy's ceiling is Darius Slay. And I'm not trying to say that this isn't, I guess you could call this a hot take, but I love Arnett. He was my corner 4, and I think the value here was totally worth it. And across from Trayvon Mullen, I think that's a decent young corner duo for the future in Vegas.
All right, so a little bit differing opinions there, but that's always good. Obviously, I'm always right 100% of the time, so I feel bad for you guys. But other than that, moving on to number 20, I don't think we need to talk much about this one. I mean, the Jaguars select, I literally cannot say this first guy's name, Chazen. Out of LSU, Caleb Von Chazen. Yeah. I'm good player from what I know. I think Jacksonville, obviously, pairing it up with Josh Allen, the young pass rusher. Their defense obviously is not the same that it was 2 years ago when they went to the AFC Championship, but they're rebuilding, and it's looking like a really good pass rushing duo for them. Do you guys have anything to say about
that? Nothing too much. I know I want to keep this one short. I think it was one of the situations where you're taking one of the best players available, trying to stack up on the defense. But other than that, I think it's a good pick there at 20.
Yeah, I love Chason. I think if they passed on him, New England was going to be all over him. He screams Patriot to me. But, yeah, pairing him across from Josh Allen it's a no-brainer to me. So, yeah, totally makes sense for that pick.
Yeah, good pick there. Number 21 overall, a little bit of a surprise here. I would say a pretty big surprise. The Eagles select Jalen. This guy's last Rager out of TCU. Obviously, I feel like most people were expecting Justin Jefferson to go before him, but I guess the Eagles want him, and yeah, I mean, he's got pretty good speed, even though he didn't run a great 40, but he does have pretty good game speed. So maybe that's what the Eagles were looking for. Obviously, Wentz has a pretty big arm. And maybe they're trying to find that next Deshaun Jackson. So I don't know if he's got that type of speed, but it's an interesting pick. What do you guys think? I guess we could talk about honestly, just we'll throw number 22 in there. Justin Jefferson, obviously, like the player I was said, most people probably had him picked before Jalen, but he went 22nd to the Vikings. So those two combined, what do you guys think? Who got the better picks there? What were the moves there?
For me, I actually really liked Minnesota's draft for the fact that they filled position needs while getting some really good players. Justin Jefferson, I thought even had a chance of going higher than 21. And, we'll talk about this more, but Minnesota getting Jeff Gladney at 31, I thought was a great move. But to go back to the kind of comparing the wide receivers, Philadelphia is a little weird for me for the fact that a lot of people, including me, thought they were going to trade up and take CeeDee Lamb for the fact that we heard so much they were so high on them. But if that did not happen, then they were going to settle for Jefferson at 21. And Jefferson is there, and I think on every person's mock draft, if you did not have them moving up, they had Justin Jefferson at 21. So I thought that was going to happen. It really kind of shocked me that it didn't happen. So that's why I give a lot of credit to Minnesota for taking advantage of that, because with the loss of Stephon Diggs going to Buffalo, they need to fill that position need as a wide receiver. So I think that they did really good getting him, proved it at LSU. But for me, Philadelphia with Jalen Reagor, I'm not the biggest fan of that, but I give a lot of praise to what Minnesota did with Jefferson at 22.
So the reason why I think Philly opted to go with Reagor over Jefferson, though I don't agree with this mindset, they throw to the slot a ton. And they run Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert in there a lot. So they needed an outside threat. And I'm kind of shocked they didn't go with Mims, but I still would have ultimately gone with Justin Jefferson. And I think Minnesota killed this draft. And managing to pick up Justin Jefferson, playing him with Adam Thielen as those like big slot receivers that they can do. They can like throw them in and outside. It's going to be great for their offense. I thought they would be all over Mims, but would to run as that Z receiver in Kubiak's offense, which they use a lot, like how they used Garcon and Washington. But yeah, Minnesota killed this draft. And Reagor, I do think it was a bit of a reach, but I can see why they decided to go that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think they obviously needed to replace Diggs. You're talking about Reagor. Yeah, I mean, the Eagles definitely need some wide receiver help. I think that their plan was to trade up, but didn't happen. Obviously, I think we all agree that Jefferson was probably the better pick for us, but Jalen does make sense for their offense. But moving on to number 23, I know Kurt's got a lot to say about this, but this was obviously the Patriots pick, and they traded out of it. Who knows if they had a particular guy, then they didn't. He was already drafted, so they just said, "I'm out." Belichick, as you saw him, he was in his pajamas at his dinner table, like everyone else that was like dressed up and in like a war room. Belichick was like, "Yeah, I just don't care about any of this. I'm just going to draft a Hall of Fame linebacker in the third round." So he traded this pick. Chargers select Kenneth Murray, who, from what I know, he's a pretty solid player, maybe even a better leader and a better person. I know he started 3 years at Oklahoma, and he had 0 interceptions and 4 pass breakups. So maybe not the best cover linebacker, but regardless, the Chargers have a really talented defense anyway, so it's not like they're asking too much from him. But putting him in could be huge. So what do you guys think? Kurt, we'll go to you because you said you have a lot to say about the Chargers draft.
It's one of those things where right when it happened, I was like, whoa, this is a great move for the Chargers. But as I kind of thought about it, it's one of those things where I still think the Chargers selecting Murray was a good move, a great move. And I know that I think, Sam, you disagree with that one. But the thing is, I don't understand, maybe it's one of those things where you don't give up, obviously, the assets you did to trade up with the Patriots. And I know that had to be done in order to get Murray. And I think that he's going to be a great player on that LA defense. But in this situation, especially me, because I'm a big Herbert fan, it's one of those things where maybe a Josh Jones just makes a lot of sense because you obviously have to protect Herbert. And Josh Jones is one of those guys who he can play in his rookie year, and he's not going to have to wait and be a project. And I think that might have been the better move. But if you're looking at Murray being on this Chargers team, I still like that move. And I think that we can't, in my opinion, say it's a bad move drafting Kenneth Murray with the 23rd overall pick.
So my problem with the pick isn't more so the player. Kenneth Murray has kind of fallen down my board since I made that graphic for my my big board. It's the fact that you traded up that much for an off-ball linebacker. And I don't think trading up that far for an off-ball linebacker is worth it. And Kenneth Murray, he's going to be great in that defense, but when it first happened, I thought it was for Josh Jones. I thought for sure they were trading up to get Josh Jones to be their tackle who could easily just slot in day one and be a competent starter. But I guess they just wanted to go with Murray. And this Chargers draft was the definition of underwhelming for me. I think this defense is locked and loaded to carry this team to very deep in the playoffs. But I just think this offense isn't going to hold up. It's just, like I said, I think this is going to be the Bears all over again with Trubisky.
Well, I mean, they got Tyrod Taylor. If they need to put in Nathan Peterman, then, I mean, I don't
Nathan
know.
Peterman's with the Raiders.
No, I know. Well, my joke was if anyone understood when they benched Tyrod Taylor for Nathan Peterman, who literally had no idea how to play football.
Oh, you
the Bills,
must be talking about Easton Stick. That's their other option.
Is that the backup?
That's their – well, now with Herbert there, he's gone for sure.
I didn't even know that's a real player. I thought you just made up someone's name.
I only know about him that much because I did a Madden franchise and I had him as my quarterback as a joke, and he carried me to the playoffs, and it was really
odd. I mean, he sounds like he has a superstar development trait, if you ask me. Easton Stick.
Seemed like it.
Okay, but moving on, number 24th overall. Don't need to dwell on this much. Saints select, obviously, center Cesar Ruiz out of Michigan. Good player. They needed a center. He can even play guard. He's pretty versatile. Really investing in Drew Brees for maybe a year or two, trying to go all in. Probably his last season. So I like the pick. Do you guys have anything crazy to say or what?
Oh, no, well, not really. The only thing I'd say is maybe you go Queen here for the fact that they kind of need to fill the linebacker role, but it's a fine pick. I'm high on Cesar Ruiz, so.
Yeah, I really like Cesar Ruiz as well. I would have gone Queen because I think he complements what DeMario Davis does exceptionally well. It's just he's going to play guard for them, keep Drew Brees healthy, keep this offense rolling. It was unexpected, but I understand it now that it happened.
Yeah, I agree. Queen was definitely an option for them, but Ruiz makes sense. So number 25 overall, the Niners select Brandon Ayuk out of Arizona State. Shanahan, we just got a quote from Shanahan saying that this was their favorite wide receiver in the draft. I don't know how true that is. I mean, I feel like people say that all the time when they get the player that they drafted. But regardless, I don't know a ton about this guy. You can talk more about that. But Niners obviously needed a wide receiver.
So Brandon Ayuk is a yards after catch animal. And if you know San Francisco, that's what they love. They love just making it super easy on the quarterback and having their playmakers make all the yardage. And Brandon Ayuk will easily do that because his route running isn't amazing, but with how they're going to scheme him, I never really thought about this being a possibility because I always just kind of pegged the Niners to just trade out of the first round like I thought they were going to do. And now they have no picks for 3 or 4 rounds. But now that I know that this is happening, this is scary. This pickup is so perfect for them, and I honestly don't know how I didn't see it before.
For me, it's basically everything that Sam just said. He fits the offensive scheme for Kyle Shanahan so well, and I think that, regardless on if Shanahan wants to say he was their favorite wide receiver, I mean, I definitely understand why he was so high on their list, but I think it's a great move for them, and I think the only thing you might have to question is trading back into, trading up for it. But I think that other than that, it's a good move for San Francisco.
Yeah, I like it as well. Number 26, I'm going to keep it short and sweet on my end. I know Sam has a decent amount to say about this, but the Packers selected Jordan Love, and I just want to say I'm going to give this an F, but I mean, obviously they had tons of holes that the Packers – I mean, not tons of holes. I shouldn't say that. Their defense was very, very good. They have some struggles on offensive line and obviously a second wide receiver, but I just want to say that if you look back at this in 3 years and Jordan Love is the next Mahomes, I hope that happens. And I'm saying it right now. So when you clip this and you play it back when All Sports Culture is debatably the number one sports media platform of all time, that I knew what I was talking about. But regardless of that, Sam, what do you have to say about this?
Okay, so here's my take on Jordan Love. I like him more than Justin Herbert. I think Jordan Love has a lot of great tools to work with, and he is the definition of a developmental quarterback. I think sitting behind Aaron Rodgers makes a ton of sense on paper. It's what Aaron Rodgers did with Brett Favre. So I don't hate the pick in concept. But like you said, we do have certain other holes like the receiver position. But this draft is deep, so I'm honestly not surprised that they're punting on it till the second and third rounds to take one, because you can get a quality starter in those rounds. And obviously, some receivers did fall to the second round that I thought were going to go in the first. My main issue with this pick is you traded up to get him. And, when Aaron Rodgers fell in 2005, he fell right into their laps. He was but he was very heavily in the discussion for the first overall pick. And so obviously making that selection makes a lot more sense than Jordan Love does here. The ratings for Jordan Love are all over the place for analysts. And if he lives up to his potential, he could be incredible. And I could look back on this pick in 3 years, or not 3 years, like 6 years and be like, yep, this was a great selection. Or I could look back on this and be like, we just got Paxton Lynch. So Jordan Love, I knew it was a possibility from the get-go. It sounded like the Packers really liked Jordan Love. They were doing a ton of meetings with him virtually. They met with him, I think, multiple times. And at the Combine, Matt LaFleur talked about what he looks for in a quarterback. And Jordan Love literally checked every box that he said. So I thought it was a possibility, but trading up for him and essentially just pointing the middle finger at Aaron Rodgers is just – it's a gut punch to fans and your current quarterback who needs weapons. And I do think they are going to take a weapon on day 2. And you can definitely get a quality starter on day 2. But I actually saw a report that the Packers throughout the week were looking to trade up into the teens, and they were going to take Jordan Love. So I'm very happy we didn't leverage our entire draft to get this guy.
Well, I'll tell you, they should have traded up into the teens, but it should have been CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah. I was hoping that was going to happen, and apparently Ian Rappaport said we were burning up the phone lines to move up in the draft. And I think trading up when they first traded up, I thought it was for Patrick Queen, and I was really happy. But who are you jumping? Seattle, they have Russell Wilson. Baltimore, they have Lamar Jackson, the MVP. The Titans, they just paid Ryan Tannehill a boatload of money. I mean, I guess you could be afraid that Indy is going to jump up into the first and get him. So I get it. Get your guy. If you love him, go get the quarterback. It's the most valuable position in the sport. It's just the practice of getting him. I think he's got a ton of upside, but this could flame out in 4 years. So that's what I have to say right now. If you guys got anything to add, because this pick was a head scratcher for a lot of people, but it does make sense in some ways.
I mean, I think Matt LaFleur should have gotten the car and he should have drove down to Dallas. Jerry Jones was unfortunately on a $250 million yacht, so he should have drove down to Dallas, get in a boat, go out to the yacht, and say, "Listen, I'm not leaving until you give me this pick for CeeDee Lamb." Because
Okay,
I think CeeDee Lamb in that offense with Rodgers, as much as people want to say Rodgers fell off, which he did a little bit last year, even though he literally was probably being hit every other play in the game against the 49ers, both times. I think CeeDee Lamb in that offense would be dangerous.
you think
That's a
you
given.
think Mike McCarthy would allow Jerry
That's a good point. I didn't think about
trade
that.
CeeDee Lamb the
I
opportunity to
didn't think
play with
about
the
that.
Packers? There's
I didn't
no
think about that.
chance. Dude, you have no idea how
Yeah, I
hyped I
actually
was
forgot about
thinking
that.
that we were gonna get CeeDee Lamb, but in reality, I would have been even more like annoyed if they ended up trading up into the mid-teens and took Love, and we ended up losing our day 2 picks. We can still get impact players on day 2 for this draft. We just need a wide receiver, like you said, and then probably a linebacker. And I think this draft needs to be a home run from now on because this pick it completely changed the direction of this franchise.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't really have anything to say. I think that Sam kind of said everything that needs to be said, but I mean, we'll look back on a couple of years and just kind of realize if it was a good pick or not, but I don't really have anything else to say.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Sorry, I took up like all that, but
Don't worry.
No,
It is okay.
it's just
listen,
a
when
lot.
man's got to rant about his team, he's got to rant about his team.
It's just
Number 27th, the Seahawks select Jordan Brooks. I mean, I don't know who this is. I will be completely honest. It seems like a project from what I gathered.
it's a Seahawks pick.
So I don't know. I don't know.
I think Jordan Brooks is actually one of the underrated players in this draft. I think that at 27, though, it's a little bit too high. I was thinking they'd go edge, and maybe that'd be AJ Epinenza or Yetur Gross-Matos.
Yeah, my boy AJ getting no love in the draft.
I agreed.
Getting no love. Come on.
But
Getting no Jordan love, dude. It's ridiculous.
No Jordan
when the
Love.
Seahawks don't draft in the first round in like 70,000 years, you can't really expect them to like.
That's true.
Hey, the last time they took a player in the first round, they took Rashad Penny. That was a great pick, obviously.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
I mean, it's all right. We'll see if this works. I'm nothing really.
Yeah, the Seahawks GM was probably like, I don't know, he was probably like sleeping or something. Like, dude, you got to pick, and he's like, it's the first round. We're the Seahawks.
Wait.
We don't pick in the first round. They're like, no, dude, like you're up. It's like, oh,
Wait,
fuck.
no, they took LJ Collier last year, who hasn't been good, and Jordan Brooks. I think he does a lot of things that Kenneth Murray can do, but this is such a Seahawks pick. They overdraft someone who's a good player, but they overdraft him like crazy, and they probably could have traded down for him. So
yeah, well, maybe Wagner can teach him some tricks, But number 28th overall, the Ravens select Patrick Queen, and I think Bess is it's one of the best picks in the draft, in my opinion. I think he's a great linebacker, and obviously the Ravens already have a stud of a defense, so it's not like they're dying in need of Queen to be an elite player. So I feel like it's just a perfect fit.
Yeah, so they had a good linebacker. Maybe you could say wide receiver, but I think linebacker made the most sense. Once Kenneth Murray was off the board, it only made sense for Patrick Queen to be taken at 28. I am higher on Murray, and it kind of seemed like the draft, and everyone felt the same way. But I think that Queen, being a huge part of the LSU defense, and I think that one of the analysts made the point of if Patrick Queen obviously wasn't a part of that team, he doesn't think that LSU wins the national championship, which is up for debate, but it just shows the impact Queen had on that team. So I think that it's a good move and will fit right in with the Ravens defense.
Yeah, the Ravens are going to develop Patrick Queen exceptionally. I love this pick. I like Queen more than Murray. So him just falling into the laps of Baltimore it's absurd. I mean, their defense is
it's
going to be
definitely
great next
dangerous.
year. So there's nothing really else to add to this. It's just a great pick. It says it's on its own. Baltimore is fantastic at draft and develop.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that they have a running back at QB, but
Oh,
nah, I'm
man.
kidding. A little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, so number 29, we don't need to talk much about this. Titans selected offensive tackle. Obviously, they lost Conklin. They need a replacement. I think it's a good pick. Anything crazy to say about this one?
No, I got nothing.
It's an overdraft, but he played along from the other side of Andrew Thomas. I would have taken someone like Niang or Jones instead, but I get it. He's a big body. Just throw him in that offensive line, but yeah, just a bit of a reach.
Yeah, I feel that. Number 30th, the Dolphins select Noah something out of Auburn.
Benogany.
Benogany. Okay, it's not that bad actually. I got
By each what is it? Not synonym. What am I thinking of?
Antonym.
No. No, the part of like when it goes by like each section of a word. How many things?
You're talking about phonetic spelling.
Wait, no. Well, okay.
Yeah. When you like sound it out, Igbenogany. Igbenogany.
I can't think of
Yeah.
it.
Noah Igbenogany. Yeah, I mean he's got a cool name, so I feel like he's probably pretty good. But other than that,
The pick wasn't.
what do you guys think?
So the NFL or draft gods are saying, look, you didn't take Josh Jones at 18, but we're going to give you a second chance at 30 to take him. All right, guys? So you're going to take him here, but Miami just didn't want to listen and took this Noah Igbenogany. Did I say that right? I don't know. But
each part,
no.
remember, each
Yeah,
part.
right.
Nailed it.
But, it's – I don't know. I'll let you rant, Sam.
I'm not gonna rant. He's a good corner. I had a second round grade on him. He's a good corner, and it follows, like I said, with Detroit, that the Patriots, like personnel, loves to build from the secondary up. So taking him makes sense, but you just invested so much money in Xavier Howard and Byron Jones, and you got actually a third chance to take Josh Jones because they traded back from 26. And they risked like Seattle taking him or Tennessee. So obviously they liked him enough to take him. But like I said with the Austin Jackson pick, I just think they haven't followed up that well to helping Tua. And they still need a safety. And I think someone like Ashton Davis or Antoine Winfield would be amazing for them on day 2. We'll just have to see how the rest of the draft plays out. But it's been pretty disappointing so far, other from Tua, obviously.
Yeah, that's fair. Moving on to 31, Vikings select Jeff Gladney out of TCU. Obviously, the Vikings need some cornerbacks. Rhodes is not what he used to be. I think they actually released him. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, they released
Yeah,
him.
they did.
So they're definitely Trey Waynes, Alexander.
They're gone.
Really? They lost all them?
They lost
all,
Trey Waynes,
all
Xavier
three.
Rhodes, and
All
Mackenzie
three of them
Alexander.
are gone.
Yeah.
They're all
right, hold on.
Wainzer and Cincy.
I'm getting a call really quickly. All right, it's the Vikings, and they said they're completely fucked.
Hey,
yeah,
Gladney's a good pick. Gladney's a good pick.
He's holding that down by himself. I mean, wait, Anthony Harrison back there. It's
Mike Hughes.
Like,
they drafted him a few years ago. It's still not a good corner room, but it's something. They got Gladney, who I think is he's perfect for a Zimmer corner.
Well, at least we don't have Ryan here telling us that he's literally Gilmore, but
hey,
yeah,
I think the Vikings killed this first round, trading down from 25 to 31 and probably getting the same guy you would have taken at 25, and you got a fourth and I think like a seventh. that's a huge win. The Vikings hit their mid-round picks more often than not. So, yeah, I love the pick. I mocked him to them in my last mock. So, yeah,
Points for you.
thank you.
Kurt, what do you got to say?
The Vikings cornerback situation is not good, like we discussed. The only thing I would say is Gladney might be a little bit of a reach. I'm a fan of him as a prospect, though. Like we said, the departures of Waynes, Rhodes, and Alexander aren't going to help them a lot. But, you kind of had to go corner for the fact that you went wide receiver. A good wide receiver, though. That was a great pick. Not taking anything away from that. So, cornerback had to be the move here, and I think that Gladney was one of the best available, so I got no problem with the move at all.
Yep, that's fair. So for Mr. Irrelevant of the first round, we got a player who's going to be the complete opposite of irrelevant, probably. Running back out of LSU, Clyde Edwards, obviously Hilary. I don't know.
Yes.
I just call him CH, honestly. But yeah, Andy Reid said he's better than Brian Westbrook. So
Really?
Yeah, he just said that actually.
Wow.
Someone asked him if someone compared him to Brian Westbrook, and they told Andy Reid that, and he said no, he's better. So that is just absurd. I'm drafting this guy probably in the third round of my fantasy draft. So I just want to say I'm sorry, CEH, but since I'm going to be drafting you, you're probably going to get hurt in the first game of the season. But yeah, that sucks. So I'm sorry for that. But if you don't somehow get hurt, you're going to have a great year with the Chiefs. I think it's a pretty good 1-2 punch with Williams too, because I still think Damian Williams will have a piece of that offense.
I'm telling you this right now. You should definitely take him a lot higher than the third round of your fantasy draft. Are you doing a rookie draft or something? Because
no. I agree.
Okay.
That was an oversight. He'll probably be like high second round. Yeah.
You see, I absolutely love the fit of Clyde Edwards-Helaire in Kansas City. You are getting a winner. You are getting the definition. I've said the definition of so many times today, but you're getting a football player. He will make a 3-yard reception into a 10-yard gain just by trucking through guys. He's a little undersized, but he's extremely smart. And though I didn't have him as running back one, I think him in Kansas City is enough to make him running back one out of this entire class. I still think Kansas City is the overwhelming favorite to win the Super Bowl next year because their offense just got immensely better by adding this guy. And a lot of teams are just thinking, how can we beat Kansas City? I don't know if you can stop their offense. Like, this is just a ridiculous ad.
Patty Mahomes is too good.
Yeah, so in case you guys didn't know, the Chiefs are pretty good. So they added this.
I didn't know that.
But I love the move. The only thing I'd say, which is not really mattering, is he's obviously a little undersized, being 5'7", but I think that his body frame kind of makes up for that, being so strong and built low. It's one of those things where Kansas City really has nothing to lose at all. Like, if it doesn't work out, they still have Patrick Mahomes, and they still have a fantastic offense. It's still going to work out. They're still going to be one of the best teams in football. Why not just take a chance on him? And I think, and we all think he's going to turn out great. So I think it's a good move for Andy Reid and his historic offense.
But draft him in fantasy, 100%.
All right, I'm making the pick right now.
You better.
All right, so that's going to conclude it for our coverage of our breakdown of the first round. I mean, we'll go around quickly. Keep it short, boys. We've run pretty long. People are probably clawing their eyeballs out at this point. But I want to ask 2 questions. 1, online draft or virtual draft. How'd you like it? How do you think it went? 2, biggest steal of the first round. I'll go first. First question, online draft. I think it went really well. Honestly, there were honestly no problems. I think it may have affected the amount of trades and whatnot were going on, even though they're still making them calls, even if it was like a normal draft. But I think it might have affected a little bit because there wasn't a ton of trades, especially in the beginning of the draft. I did like Mike Vrabel's Zoom picture. There was his kids were dressed up like superheroes or something. I don't even know what was going on. on. There was also a person
In the
going to
background
the
of the
bathroom
toilet.
in the back, which is just so absurd for it to air on ESPN. But regardless, virtual draft, I think, went really well. There was really no problems at all, for as much rumors there were going around that there were going to be some problems. So I think they did good on that part. Biggest steal, not Jordan Love. I'm going to go with
He
my
could be,
biggest
though. He
steal.
could be. That's all
He
the
could be. I will
lot
say he
that
does have the
counts.
potential to be.
He
the
could
biggest.
be, but
Rodgers
right
was
now,
drafted.
not.
Rodgers was drafted around the 25 range, so
Yeah, but this is a
Yeah,
completely different situation.
It is
I,
definitely
it
different.
is. But
I mean,
I am just telling facts.
He's
No,
putting down. He's
it
telling
could
facts.
be the best pick out of any of these, but
Could be the worst.
it also could be the worst, and I
Yeah,
completely
yeah.
acknowledge that. I'm gonna keep it real.
Yeah. So for my actual steal, I would say Patrick Queen, 28 to the Ravens, or I like CeeDee Lamb, 17th to the Cowboys. What do you guys think?
Okay, so the virtual draft, I think it went well. Obviously, with all the circumstances going on, it went as best as it could. But I mean, I think this is pretty self-explanatory. I think that having an actual draft and an actual location is just a lot better. But if you're looking at what obviously we had to go through and switching to virtual, I think it went really well. But some steals, I think, in the first round is I loved Justin Jefferson to Vikings. I don't know if that's really a steal, but it's just one of my favorite picks. But if we're talking just steal, I would probably agree with you on the CeeDee Lamb to the Cowboys.
So with the virtual draft, I think over the past couple of years, the draft has become a lot about the spectacle of it and like how big and grand. And I mean, they were gonna have a freaking boat pull the players up to the stage this year. That just goes to show how much this draft has evolved as just an event. And I think dialing it back to be this simple, you just talk over the picks, you show highlights. I think I liked it. I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. But it's not going to stay the same. They've already announced that Vegas is going to be the place in 2022 now. But as a one-time thing, I think it was pretty successful. Now for my steal, yeah, I agree with you guys. CeeDee Lamb, total steal. But I'm going to keep it different. Let's go with I'll go with Jedrick Wills. I think getting the best tackle in the class at 10th overall to completely help your offense be even better. I think that's a huge win for Cleveland, and he's going to start on that left side immediately.
Yeah, that's a good pick. That's going to do it for the second episode of the Highlighted podcast for all sports culture. I'm Sully. We got Sam. I just said Sam twice. We got Kurt. We got Sam. That's going to be the breakdown of the first round of the NFL draft. We gave you our steals. We gave you our busts, what we thought about the picks. But other than that, hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you guys are leaving a rating for our podcast so we continue to pump out this content. Make sure you're following All Sports Culture on all social media sites because, like I said earlier, we are the best sports media company to ever exist. Definitely better than Digitalized. But other than that, that's going to be it for this episode. So thank you guys for listening.